There's an old saying that before and I'm not even really in that great of a mood, so I'm probably not even going to start with that. Um, I said before, this year is turning into a remake of last year in the sense that you get hired somewhere for about a month or about a couple of days before they threaten to get rid of you. We've been over that before. I mean, it was this exact same thing played itself out twice. But man, I really was hoping I was wrong. I was hoping that if you try as hard as you can to do certain things, you can make some type of positive impact. And it seems that um, a lot of times that gets overridden. So one of my relatives is in the hospital, and they decided over several years of having a fairly serious illness to not disclose that they were sick, to not mention that they were ill. Um, and I don't, what I think is so interesting is how there are people who are defending this person, other relatives of mine, and they're all defending this person while admitting that if the situation were reversed and they had some serious illness that was years long, they wouldn't hide it. They wouldn't pretend that they're fine. And it's always so frustrating when I think about how on the internet there are these people who um, can always make it your fault when something happens to you, if you're a man, that is. And they can never express any type of sympathy or empathy or just anything resembling, some basic human compassion. So, um, I'm going to go over some of the ways that this affects me, and they're all negative. Spoiler alert for the rest of the stream. Um, God, I'm not even saying this to rev up drama or to drudge up some like tragic circumstance, but I really don't think I'm gonna make it out of this. Um, for a couple of reasons. One, that person is the only one that will typically go with me to the market or to get something to eat. And what this means is that if I were to, let's say, go to a grocery store and get something, I'd have to then lug several bags back with me or go back and forth over and over because I don't have a vehicle. But that was one of the things that really irritated me about this because um, I've mentioned before that the license saga for me was for like 2 years being told how getting an important a car was, and then after, excuse me, how important having a license was. I should rephrase that, to the point where people wouldn't even take me out to practice driving because they said I had to pass this test and it was so essential and yakety yak. Um, and then after a great period of frustration and turmoil, I finally got it in June of 2018. And over the course of not 1 year, not two, not three, not four, never received a car. I was promised from the day I got the license, I would get a car, and it never happened. And it was like Wild Runner. It was like Wild Coyote and the Road Runner, where every year there's like a different excuse for why this can't be given to you. And it really has driven me crazy. And it's part of something a pattern I've noticed where it seems like the people who are the most disappointed with some decision or action that you did are also the ones who've helped you the least to get out of it. So what I mean by that is I have the same little, and it's not that many of them, but it's the same little small group of relatives, maybe like three people who have accused me of being lazy. And this has been something that has really upset me for a long time because let's be very clear about this. I'm a guy who, when I do content on this website, even with a lot of the streams, for example, I had tried to sit there for an hour and a half, 2 hours, and then in that same span of time, that's like a week, make at least one edited video where I write some script that's several pages long, record it, edit it, cut all the stuttering, stick the pictures in there. So what I'm getting at is I'm not called lazy because I don't perform things that require some amount of work. I'm called that because the things I do are not considered to be financially lucrative. So, for example, if I did a documentary and it gets 500,000 views, and in response to that, like let's say in monetization, that's like $1,000. Just let's just, I don't know if that actually is probably higher than that, but just as an example, um, no one would be saying I was lazy if that were the case. So that's been the biggest frustration for me because it's the literal twilight zone of having a guy who, even when being unemployed, works very hard for a lot of the videos and contents that he puts up on here, and it doesn't count because he doesn't make anything from it. But I've always found it so interesting that like because this has been going on for years, right? And in all these years, and I swear to you, every time I get hired somewhere, it's always through me. These people almost never help me with looking for a position. They never give me any referrals. They don't do anything besides run their mouths and look down on me as if they themselves are the most accomplished things ever. That is the totality of their role with regard to me being employed. They have nothing to do with me getting any of these positions. But remember, these same people who claim they care and love you so much. Yeah. I actually went to an interview. I think it was Thursday, and I'm supposed to hear between yesterday and Monday whether I got the position. But I'm not holding my breath because I mean we know the score that even if you get the job in a hypothetical, they're gonna do their same usual garbage where they look for any reason to fire you, and then you're back on your uh, chair applying for more stuff before the month is over because that's what these people do. They have no I always have to remind myself businesses couldn't care less about their employees. And even when they smile in your face and laugh and grin and giggle and act like you're the most interesting person in the world, in the background, they're secretly plotting how they're going to get rid of you before you even start. I always have to remind myself of that. Always have to get myself prepared for the idea that no matter how hard you work for one of these places, they will get rid of you for anything. Like I remember the last one I had back in February and how I would wake up every single day and get there on time and learn the stuff they told me to do, relatively quickly. And you're ultimately done in by some stupid website that most people don't even use. And if it weren't that, it would just be something else. They were complaining about no one selling some kind of like package that they had. So it's just that these places look for any reason to get rid of somebody. So that's why I wouldn't even be excited if I was hired there because we've been let down before by these pricks. But sometimes I often think of how it's like there's this absurdity to people like when they talk they don't listen to you, and it's like they come up with these half-baked responses. So I was explaining how because I don't have a vehicle, if I want to go see this relative that's in the hospital, it costs about 50 or $60 every day. It costs about 20 some to go, 20 some to 30 some to come back. And how I'm not wealthy, I'm not rich, and even if this is someone else's card, I don't know how much is on there, which means even if I do this for the foreseeable future, if this thing runs out on me, because if you don't know how much is on there, it can that's something that could happen. You try to go or you try to leave from there and you can't go any further. I would still be unable. Like if it runs out on me, I'm stuck out there. I have no way of getting back home. And rather than this person say, hey, you know what? Maybe go once a week. Maybe we should try to actually get you a vehicle. This idiot goes, "Oh, I could ask this person how much is on the." It's like, so you really think it makes sense for me to spend if I go Monday through Friday, like $250 just to go see this person? In that individual's mind, they think that makes sense. They don't think there's anything wrong with spending a whole bunch of money just to go and see a when if you had a car, you it wouldn't cost anywhere near as much. So, and then what I thought was really humorous was that they had about maybe 6 months ago, 7 months ago, this person that thinks it's a brilliant idea to use Uber every single day to go to drive 2 hours. This person had asked me how much money I owned, and then was telling me about how, oh, you can get a car sometimes as cheap as $2,000, and you know, yeah. And I declined to tell because I'm like, if I could theoretically get a car for that price, what is the purpose of your involvement? If you're not going to pay for anything, why do you need to know how much I own? You see where that's stupid? Like I'm gonna tell you revealing information about myself for the purpose of getting a vehicle that you're seemingly not going to help me pay for, period. So then yesterday when I'm on the phone with this person, I have like somebody else that's like more sympathetic to me that I'm in the presence of. They're like, oh, he doesn't really want a car. I was like, yeah, I passed my you know my driver's license test years ago, just so I could walk around with this picture of myself in my pocket, right? Because people who don't want cars, they ask for them year after year. That's what they do, and they don't want one. Like I said, the biggest issue would also be the fact that if you get one, um, being able to like make payments on because I said before that I would buy one, not lease one, because I don't know why you have to rent a vehicle permanently or indefinitely. But I was explaining how the other issue is that even if you get one, being able to keep paying for gas while unemployed, is not exactly a thing that's going to last too long, or that can last forever if you catch my drift. And none of these people have shown any desire to assist me with getting hired anywhere. They just sit on their little high horse and they, point fingers and blame you for everything. Because that's just what people do. They always find a way to make it your fault, no matter how screwed up or out. And I said before that the external factors never get acknowledged by people. They act like they don't even exist. So in a situation where I've got a relative who hides an illness for years until they can't and they go to a hospital, even though that's an external factor, I still am not going to see these people admit, like, yeah, that wasn't your fault because people just hate men. They hate men. They find it impossible to empathize with us. Um, they just have this complete inability to ever put themselves in our position. It's just impossible. And that's speaking of a lot of chicks, and that's speaking of a lot of guys as well. They have this weird inability to say, "Hey, you know what? That sucks. That's lame. That's terrible. That's not good." They just can't do it. You know, I was just thinking about how people always pretend they're so poor, right? They when like I would mention the car thing, they would act like, "Oh my God, this costs so much," blah 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 blah. But what I find very, and this just like goes back to reconfirming my idea of how these people are full of it, and they're full of a word I'm not going to say because I don't want to. I already think I'm probably going to get demonetized, but I don't want to, swear here. The market is probably the closest one is like maybe 2 maybe a mile from where I live, maybe like a block. Like it's somewhere that I could probably walk in like 15 minutes, 20 minutes. And I said, isn't it sad that I have all of these different relatives who have cars? These aren't people that live out of state. I can name like 4 or 5 of them that um you see at least multiple times a month. That's how recurring they are and how close by they are. And not a single one has volunteered to drive me to the market to get some, some supplies. Not one. And that just shows you that even when people can help, even when it costs them almost nothing or very little, they just can't be bothered to do it. Seriously, not a single one of these people with all of their vehicles has said, "Hey, you know what? That person that would take you up every week is sick, so I can come and I can, take you up there and we." Not one. Remember, they love you. They care about you. You mean the world to them. I said before, I've always like, if not all, excuse me, not always, but just like the last 5 or 6 years, I really started to, and especially when I was a teenager, I would just like question, not to someone's face, but just privately, like, this is what love is. To have someone who you are around or um are fully aware of the struggling or otherwise issues of, and then to be able to assist them, but to then in reality turn your back on them, and the few times where you have anything to say about this person, you're criticizing them as if you're the most accomplished, spectacular individual ever, when in reality you're barely any better off than they are, as you live paycheck to paycheck. Like that's what I thought was crazy. Some of these people, if they don't get one check just for like a week or maybe a month, they'd be doomed. And they sit here on their high horse and act like they're your superior. No one thinks that's nuts. Like I'd like to imagine if I was living somewhere where it ate up my whole check pretty much every month, I would have a little bit more humility. I'd be able to say, you know what? I don't agree with all the stuff this person has done, but I'm also not in any position to where I can pretend that I'm this extremely successful superstar. And people just they think this is normal. They think it's normal to just sit here and claim you love someone and then do nothing to assist them with getting any further in any division of their life, while also like criticizing them as if you ever have assisted them with anything. Like I to this day still have people. It's not that many of them, but it's still a few of them. Why don't you go back to school? Why don't you go back to school? And I say to these idiots every time, I cannot afford it. When some institution asks me at age 20 to pull out $12,000 that year and then possibly be expected to do it the next year without going into debt, that's it. That's a wrap. And then you have these people on the computer who come on here and they act like they're these extremely accomplished um Ivy League attending, and they're nothing. And you know they're nothing because every time they come on your channel, there's no proof that they've ever accomplished anything besides getting a computer to type their garbage from. But I was just thinking about how like I get this license and every year there's different excuses for why there's no car every year, just over and over, to where apparently as late as 3 weeks ago, this person said something about oh, I would get him one. And I just it just frustrates me so much because you knew you were sick. You probably reasoned that you were eventually going to have to go to hospital. And because what I was experiencing really didn't affect you that much, you just kept putting it off and putting it off and putting it off until you were currently incapacitated. God, man, I don't know what this even is anymore. Like, we're supposed to sit here and like this is how insane this stuff is. You're supposed to sit here and apply to a bunch of different jobs every year and then hear nothing back from almost any of them. And then when you come in for an interview, it costs a whole bunch of money to even go to the interview. Um, and then even if you get the position, you have to like worry if they're going to get rid of you after a couple of days or weeks, like the places before. And then like while you're doing this, the people who supposedly want you to work have no involvement with ever getting you a job. Just never stick their nose out for you, never show any interest in helping you, nothing. And then at the same time, you're supposed to sit there and believe these people care about you, that they love you. What is in any way indicative of love about that? Do you think if I had a son or a daughter or a cousin or a niece and they wanted to work, but every time they applied somewhere, they heard nothing back, or even if they got hired by someone, it was like part of a scheme to get rid of that person as quick. Do you think I would just sit idly by on the sidelines every year while that stupid stuff happens to them if I claim to care so much about them? Like I said, these people, if they actually gave a damn, could give me a referral. They could, I've never had a single one of them sit down and come to my house and go, you know what? Over the next couple of hours, we're going to look at some stuff online so we can apply these different. Not once, not a single time. The majority of them that complain about me being unemployed also have this really convenient habit of disappearing every time I get hired by somewhere or am applying for stuff. They have no role in that whatsoever. And like I said, the only reason the stuff I do on here is considered illegitimate is because I don't make that much off of it. And think how insane that is. You sit here and you do a documentary, you gotta write a whole script, several pages long, edit some video, chop out the stuttering, stick pictures in there. If there's clips, put those in there too and select which ones work and which ones don't. And people have the gall to call you lazy. And no one thinks that's insane. I had one person, it's the same one that had that brilliant idea about the car. And they said, oh, well, you can't live with me because of this circumstance that I'm in. But, if eventually I'm going to be out of it. But if you live with me, you can't just sit around and do nothing. And it just drives me insane because basically there's two options if you live with this person. You either commit financial suicide by going to one of these schools that you can't afford, because it's like even if you don't lose all your money, you're still going to have a bunch of debt. Um, which they're going to blame you for anyway. I should mention that as well. Like I've said before, these people always find a way to make something your fault. Or you apply for a bunch of positions that this person, if you don't get hired, is going to blame you for not getting hired from anyway. Because that's all they know how to do. It's always your fault. Somebody has some secret illness that they're battling and they don't tell anybody about it, and you're affected by it because of like them being suddenly incapacitated. It's your fault. Someone doesn't want to hire you, you know, your fault. Somebody doesn't want to subscribe to you, your fault. Someone doesn't want to watch your video, your fault. Blamed for everything. And then you'll have some insane person who will say, or you're mad at this person for getting sick. I said, no, I'm upset that they had an illness that they didn't tell me about, because when people let you know that, hey, I'm not feeling good, I might need to go to this place to feel to, just if they when they tell you something, you can actually make accommodations based off of it. In any well-oiled machine, that's what you're able to do. And someone gives you like a warning or some kind of disclosure, like, hey, I might not be able to do this after this amount of time, or this is like really affecting me. But they didn't do this. They pretended that they were fine as recently as this past weekend. The weekend before this one, they weren't saying they were sick. They were acting like it, but they weren't, they were saying, "Oh yeah, I'm fine." Guys, that I just and like I said, every year they found a way to keep delaying something that now I know for a fact nobody else is going to assist me with. So yeah, I'm really in a lot of ways just screwed. Um, and that's what drives me crazy, that like these things aren't even that difficult, but when you have a bunch of people who just have no empathy whatsoever, that call themselves being related to you and loving you, you're doomed. You just um even if someone else can feasibly do these things, if they choose not to, then that's it for you. Not one has volunteered to take up any of these tasks, even though all of them are just as capable if they wanted to. No, one of the dumbest charges against me is has always been the "you're lazy" thing. I mean, like the amount of effort I put into stuff on this site, it's really insane. Like I was doing an edited video this week. It was another what if video. What if I got married? Um, and I had a 5-page script. I had some audio that I was trying to stick at the start of it and then come back to it at the end. Talk about it. It's supposed to be a nice prologue. And I said I'll never be able to understand how these people, like, in one breath, will tell you that money isn't the only thing that matters, but then when you work hard but you don't make anything off of it, you're lazy. Told you, it's the literal twilight zone. They're speaking out of both sides of their mouth. It's so funny too, because like there was a part of me that really did accept my lot on this website. Like I just accepted I was never gonna, actually see any real subscriber growth. You're always gonna get probably like some three-digit number of views at maximum. And it's really awful that like a guy who's not even like, I just became content with like never growing on this site whatsoever, right? The only time it ever became something I was truly frustrated with not having was when I would get like screwed in real life as well. Like, oh, here's these employers that won't hire me. Man, it sure would be nice if I could get hired for all that work that I do on YouTube and get paid for it. Because I remember when I had the position back in February, I didn't care about YouTube. There were days where all I would do is stick up a video and I would just disappear from my own channel for the rest of the day. It's really not a burning ambition of mine, or at least it usually isn't, under circumstance. Like basically, because of how awful real life circumstances are, where you just have these employers that there's clearly something wrong with. Um, I just accepted the idea that we're like the only reason any of this stuff on the computer is even remotely appealing to me is because of how bad it is in real life. I remember last year I had a relative who mocked me. They said, "Oh, if you think you're so smart, but if you're so smart, why can't you get a job?" And it's like this is another one of those people that claims they love me, by the way. But I was just thinking to myself, you know, There are a lot of intelligent people who don't get as much as they deserve regarding their wealth. So there are a lot of teachers who are very knowledgeable of the subjects that they teach, but their pay really isn't any better than anybody else who lives paycheck to paycheck. But I said, let's be very clear about something. The only reason I am not successful on this website are because of crappy circumstances. I've taken plenty of looks at the channels that make it on this site, and there's a lot of things they do in common with myself, and in some cases, even worse. And they get way more views. I mean, look at the reaction channels. You literally steal somebody else's video or movie or whatever, 10,000 views, 30,000 views, 50,000. And you're going to tell me that I'm stupider than a person who makes a video like that? And I said before, and we're going to mention this because we know how on the internet people are obsessed with chicks. They take them and they turn them into these like goddesses who all deserve to be propped up and treated like some kind of queen or something. You better believe if I had a set of chest melons and I made the exact same content, I probably would have 10,000 subs or even higher than that. Because I've seen a lot of women's channels where they do the exact same thing. They sit in front of a webcam, talk about something. They don't even edit any videos. Or if they do edit a video, it's like a jump cut or something. My point is, this is another situation where people don't want to acknowledge that there are certain external factors that are not getting referenced because they want to paint an easier narrative. Intelligence doesn't determine how many subscribers you have on this website. That should be very clear. It also doesn't determine if a job is going to hire you, because there are a lot of jobs that will have someone who can speak articulate in front of them and make them laugh and just have this great old time interviewing you. But if you have some resume that doesn't have 900 other past positions, you might as well not even try. Even though it's funny enough, they try to say I create a self-fulfilling prophecy, not people in real life, online. It's like I'm never going to be able to put any of the places I've worked at on a resume, because who the hell wants to hire someone that's been fired twice after a month? Like, why would I put that there? So yeah, they're always going to be stuck with a version of me who says, "Oh yeah, this is my first job." Because why would I tell them that I work somewhere and they got rid of me after a month or a couple of days over some stupid website, or the manager not feeling as if you were up to par, even though he knew when he hired you that you didn't know how to do this stuff, and lost his patience after 1 week or your first day of doing the stuff, I should say. Why would I put that there? Who in their right mind would think that was a good idea? No, it's funny. They really pretend that I should feel ashamed or I should like be upset with myself or despise myself for the way things are. I said, listen, the only person who tries to make things different with regard to any of this stuff is me. When I apply for a position, I'm the only one who's applying. I don't have any of these different relatives that moan and cry every year applying to help are helping me at all. Same thing. Most likely, if I end up getting a vehicle, it's gonna be the exact same saga where there's no help from anybody else. You get it by yourself. Because these people they don't do anything except criticize and cry and moan and all the rest of that. They're not helpful. They're certainly not wanted. Even ironically enough, I've never turned down anyone's actual legitimate help with something. And when I say legitimate, I'm talking about like, people have warped ideas of help. They think if they do bare minimum stuff that you could do yourself, they're assisting you somehow. Yeah, it's just I'm really sick and tired of like being metaphorically beat up over stuff that's out of my control. And this is just compounding on that fact that like now we're gonna have to figure out how to, I guess, move around in spite of this person's circumstance that we had no way of knowing about. Yeah, every time somebody says I love you, I just roll my eyes or pretend I didn't hear it. Because like I said, there's a lot of basic stuff you can do for someone um that I think these people are too lazy, ironically enough, themselves to do. You know, it's like if you can drive someone up to a store that's like what 10 minutes away, but you choose not to. What does that say about how productive and helpful you are? And every year it's the same thing with these people. Like they just blame you for all this different stuff with no assistance whatsoever. And even while hospitalized, the lies don't stop. Oh, I'm getting out on Thursday. Thursday was 2 days ago. They're still there. It's like I just wish they could tell some level of truth, like all this lying and it's weird because nobody else does this. But yeah, I don't know how I'm gonna make it out of this because a lot of the stuff that they were willing to do, other people are not. And this whole thing is just really, really awful. And I actually I was trying to convince myself there is no way this year can be as bad as last year, right? Because I said it was like really awful for me to get hired somewhere and then get like thrown away like a piece of garbage a few weeks later. I was like, there's no way things can be as bad as that. And then we get a remake of that in what was that, February? And then um, like then this. Like I said, I just I'll never understand how people are able to actually convince themselves of things. Like this person has really convinced themselves, I don't want a car. I just got a license for fun, I suppose. And a remark like that really upsets me. And I'm very frank about the fact that the only reason I even tolerate these people is because of my crappy living conditions. If I didn't, I would say any type of manner of evil I'd like. But I that's because I remember, like I was there. It was a 2 year irritating period of taking this stupid what was it? The license that the test, the exam to get the permit. Um Not the permit to get the license. And I took that thing, I think 3 times before I actually, was able to get uh the ability to like go for a driver's test. I passed the written exam, I should say. And I remember how irritated I was when I didn't pass it the second. I was like, "Oh my god." So, I'm just saying when a person makes a comment like that, it's really offensive to me because I remember vividly the struggle that took place to get this stuff and the promises that were not fulfilled by these different adults that, tried that egged me on to get this stupid little thing that you don't even get to use. But like I said, they have no empathy. And sure enough, I know these people, I know their parents. I know that this person, for example, when they were my age, they didn't have their parents telling them to get a or their guardians, whichever way you want to describe these people. They didn't have anyone telling them to get a license and then no car for years. None of them ever had to deal with this, and I know that for a fact. But that's why I said it always felt to me like I had these unique and very crappy circumstances that I was in, and there were like these people in real life and online who were like dead set on making everything my fault. So for example, um I mentioned I did this one stream at like 6 in the morning because I had to go to this job fair, and I was expecting maybe 5 people, six, right? It was a whole line of 20, 30, 40 people. So there's obviously plenty of individuals who want to work but don't have a job. At least in my area anyway. Otherwise, there wouldn't have been that many that were there. But I get saddled with this stuff as if it's just me that is in this unique garbage situation. That's why I said these people when they're trying to crucify somebody, um, they always act like the things that affect that person are not affecting other people. They always find a way to pretend that you're just this unique piece of garbage and everyone else is doing so better off than you are. When a lot of times that's just not true. Like I said, I don't because this I don't even feel like talking about them that much, but just for example, look at the woman's situation, right? All of these guys online making whole groups about how hard it is to get a date, and I'm supposed to feel bad about this, that, or the other. They never acknowledge that these things affect other people. They never acknowledge the fact that they don't assist you with acquiring any of these things because their whole role is just to attack you and be as unfair to you as possible. They have no desire to ascend to anything further than that. To actually be helpful and supportive in any capacity. They're just bricks. I remember when I had one of my subscribers say on the stream that I should make this documentary for for like self satisfaction. I said, listen, if I want to talk about something, I can do that without putting in all of these extra levels of work. Um, because I'm really sick of this persistent irony of breaking my back metaphorically to make something that most people will never make while being told of how lazy and how I'm just sitting at my house just and I like that's what drives me crazy because like yeah, there are times where I might, want to relax and watch a movie, play a video game. And I don't even play that many games anyway, so that's even more hilarious. But so often when I wake up, I'm writing something. Like there are so many productive things that we do, and the only reason that we get called lazy is because we don't make a profit off of it. Like I said, you think if I streamed for 2 hours and made $300, anyone would say I was lazy? No, they wouldn't. Because to these people, the only thing, and they'll try to claim otherwise, but to these people, the only thing that matters is like how much you make or if you're able to, I guess, afford various crap. And they don't really care if you're in some circumstance that doesn't allow for you to do that. And you see this with people online as well. I mean, who could forget the guy that was so obsessed with my attire that he was like leaving comments and trying to argue back and forth? And I said, so you expect me, little faceless gremlin, to spend a whole bunch of money on getting different outfits so I can impoverish myself and have no way of being able to afford actual stuff I need, like food or other resources? And it's like they think this is normal. You really don't understand how someone who doesn't have a job probably isn't gonna have 900 pairs of clothes? God damn, like, use your brain for 2 seconds. You might actually learn something. Like I said, when people talk and they write stuff, it's like they don't think. Like, I wish I said before, a lot of people think they're intelligent because they can type well, but some of the stuff they write is just even if it's grammatically correct, it still is factually ignorant. I had a place that contacted me yesterday. I think the day before that, and they were like, "Oh, we can set up a telephone interview for some other position." It was a different job than the one I went to the interview for on Thursday. And I was just thinking to myself, man, I remember like when I got hired by that place last year, how excited I was. The nightmare is over, and it was just another cruel joke. So now every time it looks like somewhere might hire me, I don't have any enthusiasm about this because I know that once I get comfortable or start to think, hey, maybe this might go differently, they're just gonna wash their hands no matter how hard you work. And then I'll have a bunch of these online sleuths who weren't there who will just assume I did something wrong. I mean, I even talked about doing an edited video where there's a guy who comments, and I'm just using this as an example, on one of the videos, and he's like, "Oh, uh, you can break the romance curse. And after you realize certain stupid mistakes you made, I'm not judging you because I don't know what you did during that time. So you're not judging me, but you're also going to claim I made certain stupid mistakes." And that's why I said that talking to these people and actually trying to have a conversation with them is a complete waste of time because no matter what happens to you, if it doesn't go the way you want, whether you work 30 jobs or didn't get hired by any of them, if it doesn't go the way you want, if you don't get that final result that you wanted of being permanently hired by somebody or with some whatever, these people will find a way to blame you. He admits he has no idea what happened, but I must have made certain stupid mistakes. So I said there's like we really should just start doing streams where the whole chat is banned except is like blocked off except maybe like a 2 or 3 months. Because what's the purpose of talking to these people? They just create crap in their head and then treat it like it's canon. They're no better than half of the anime community, where they don't know what happened, but they just make these events occur in their mind. Real life fan fiction. You can never have any grievances with anything because the oppression Olympics is prevalent online. Told you I lost a lot of motivation to even have dialogues with people about anything. When like if I've never seen you before and you come try to ask questions, I'm probably just going to ignore you. Because every time you try to give somebody a chance, one of these stupid sites, they just show how insane they are. And I said before that like I get enough garbage in real life. I don't need an extension of it on the computer as well. Like I really don't. So I said people are insane. They think you're supposed to just sit here and I don't know what they think. I guess you're supposed to like not get what you want and be completely fine with it and never get angry and never get sick of it and never get tired of it. You're supposed to be in like this never-ending saga of being denied the things that you want and or need and then you know, have no type of issue with that whatsoever. It's so interesting how like there I've had so many interviews where it was me and like another person or multiple other people. And it's always reinforced this idea that at any given time there's a bunch of people who need a job. Um, and yet for some reason, I have this group of people online and in real life who feel like they can make me feel ashamed over being unemployed. And I've said repeatedly, if you go to if you fill out these places their applications, if you go to their interview, if you make a genuine attempt to convince them of why they should hire you and they choose not to, what more else could you have done? After all, the people who are going to blame you for not getting hired by this place, it's like they're going to see a tape of your interview with them, so they're just going to make up any reason for why it didn't work that has to do with it being your fault, regardless. Because to them, external factors don't exist, and these places can do no wrong. So I said, we don't need to have conversations when the go-to narrative is just to blame me for everything. And it just never seems to improve. It's the same old stupid stuff every year. And in a lot of instances, it finds itself managing to get worse. That's what drives me crazy. Like I don't you always have these people who are like and there's not as many of them now, but there were like a group of people who were obsessed with my age and they would talk about, "Oh, you're young," all this like stupid stuff, right? And I said, isn't it sad that like in your heart of hearts you think it's okay for this person to be miserable because you've convinced yourself they're going to have this like happy ending eventually, whether that's in 10 years or 15 years, as that one broad said a few years back, and I was like, Oh, who expects me to wait that long for any of this stuff? I mean, what kind of bizarre world do you live in where you're expected to wait 8 years to get another job or three to get a one that won't get rid of you? Like what? But this goes back to my thing of how these people have like these warped ideas of reality that every single day you're constantly seeing things that are not in line with what they're claiming over the computer. All the times people would say, "Oh, your content needs to be improved this way, that way, X, Y, and Z." And it's like, I look at these bigger channels, I see the stuff they're making. It's really not that damn great. Really, the only thing a lot of them have over me is like a better quality camera. But it's like, yeah, if I use the one on my laptop, it's not as good as the one on my phone. And the one on my phone hurts my hand to hold it, and the audio isn't as good. So basically, even if we had a higher quality camera, which we use for the stuff throughout the week, it would still be the same result. Where like people just don't watch, they don't care. Basically, no matter what thing you do to improve, people are not going to watch. If you make thumbnails, people aren't going to watch. You promote on some other website, people are not going to watch. We've done all this stuff before because when people have decided as a collective that they're not going to check out your stuff, that's it. And like I said, I'm done believing in that fantasy of ever actually making it on this stupid website. They can sell another lie. Oh God. And I don't know what's worse, having a bunch of people who won't assist you with things, but they have the power to, but they just choose not to do it, or having a bunch of people who blame you for stuff that you have no power over. Like it's not this person's fault if they won't drive you to the market to get some food, but it is your fault if some other person decides not to hire you or date you or watch your video or um, you know any other thing you can think of. Like if someone does something that is not what you wanted them to do, you're supposed to have changed their mind and pulled out your telepathic powers and made them be interested in you. And it's like I don't have these abilities. I'm not a mutant. But I told you we live in a world that hates men, and specifically a digital one. That's why most of the people that are homeless in the US are males. Um, that's why almost every time you see somebody that's talking about how they've went this many years without having a partner, it's usually a guy. I mean, people just have this bizarre and like I would get it, for example, if this man in particular did something to you. Um, but I'm telling you, there's a lot of people who have this genuine hatred for men, including other men. Like, I guess you could call it self-hatred, but I'm not gonna get invested in that. You have a bunch of guys and a lot of chicks that hate men, just men in general, to where when they see one of us having some type of like issue or some type of thing that's not going the way we want, automatically blamed, automatically nailed to a cross and put on trial for why this didn't turn out the way you wanted it to. Forget the extenuating circumstances. Forget the external factors. Forget anything that has to do with showing that, hey, maybe this guy is in a situation that resulted from a decision that someone else made that was out of his control. They will always find a way to blame you. If you're working for some company and they choose to fire you because they're laying off 10 people this month, that was your fault. If you're talking to some woman and she won't date you because she's speaking to like 30 other guys and she doesn't plan on dating any of them except for maybe one or two, and you're not one of those two, that was your fault. If you're speaking to some woman and she won't date you because of your race, even though you have no control over this, that was your fault. It's always the man's fault. That's why in my "What if I get married" video, I have a portion in there where I said that I get accused of like being repetitious and oh, you never change. Said, there are certain beliefs I've adopted that I didn't used to have. Like now I know for a fact, when I was like going through the hypothetical of if you married this woman and then it didn't work out, I now realize that even if I were to date or marry a woman, if it didn't go the way I wanted to, meaning that like she ended it or we got divorced or broke up, if that was a publicly known thing on here, I would be attacked over it. I would be told, and I would be told all the same dumb stuff I get told now. You're to this, you're that, you're X, Y, and Z. Because for these people, the woman is never at fault. She's to blame for nothing. That's why I said there's no point in having any conversations about these things with most people online because they're just going to keep creating reasons for why bad stuff happens to you because it's always your fault in every circumstance. God. And every year it's the same thing over and over. You try as hard as you can to prevent something from happening. You get almost next to no assistance whatsoever. And then a bunch of people in real life and people who don't even know you on the internet accuse you of being the reason that it stays the same, even though you're the only one who's trying to actually change anything. So I said, I have no desire to have conversations with pretty much anybody on here anymore because it just seems really fruitless to try and explain stuff to people if since they're not actually going to pay attention. It's always my fault. Yeah, every year it was the same thing. "Oh, this car is in the shop. Oh, this car doesn't work. Oh, this car is getting its brakes fixed. Oh, this car," and it was like, when does it end? And I'm telling you that I would really be interested in making that like an animated movie someday because it was just a whole every year saga of excuse after excuse after excuse after excuse. And I was like, why can't they just do this? And as frustrating as that is, that whole thing that happened with that person and where they currently are, the other ones are no better. No, in a lot of ways, my worst fear did come to pass because I was rushing to get this thing. Everybody always like say, "Oh, young people rush." No, I'm specifically trying to get this before the only person that's actually trying to seemingly assist me with getting this is put in some situation where they can't help me. And they did it to themselves. They didn't let anyone know that they had this illness, and now I'm screwed. So Like I said, when things don't affect people, they don't care. You're just supposed to sit there and just not get what you want and be content with it. And I'll never understand how, and I hope that even if my circumstances were to be different or to improve, which I don't think they will because they've been the same year after year for just too long for me to believe in that. But just in a hypothetical, if they ever were to improve, I would hate to have this like idea or this belief system that I am this amazing, highly accomplished. I don't know. It's just like some of the people who have egos around me, like you look at them and you're like, really? Like to live paycheck to paycheck, going all the way into your 40s. That's an accomplished person. That's who I'm supposed to want to emulate. That's who, when they say you're a bum, I'm supposed to like actually believe in the authenticity of their words. Like they have some authority over me to say a disgusting comment like that. Really? Like I just don't understand where people get these. And it's the same thing with online. Like none of these guys ever have shown year after year that they have any of the stuff they tell you you need. No one has shown they have muscles. No one has shown they're well off. No one has shown they have a girlfriend or what. Nothing. And they come on here and they write all this stuff and talk down to me like like they're the greatest thing ever. Like they're the Magna Carta when they're really a Ford Pinto. Seriously, what is with this weird obsession with trying to pretend you're so great? It's not even like I get it when people come online, they have their personas. Oh, look at me, I'm in my Lamborghini. But even in real life, people who you can trace things back to, who you can factually dismantle because of the crappy circumstances they have brought upon themselves, they still pretend they're great just because they have a job. That's enough for them to think they're amazing, and that we should all bow in reverence to them. It's so weird. God, you just cannot win with this stuff. It's like I'm telling you, I had no way of predicting this was going to happen because they didn't prepare me. They didn't tell anything whatsoever. Kept entirely out of the loop. Um, but just the way I feel, like it had to be this year. It had to be the year where I finally got a new computer. It had to be the year where, I get hired by some place for the second time that gets rid of me after a month. It had to be this year. It had to be during this time. So I said I've always felt like for some people, they're not gonna make it. Um, and when I say not make it, I'm referring to like actually get what they want, to actually be able to take care of themselves, actually like get some semblance of a stable living environment where they can like comfortably breathe, and they have to go to some job they hate, but at least they don't have to worry about, oh my god, this month how am I going to pay for this, how am I going to pay for that, like I realize I'm never going to have that. I'm never going to have a stable situation, that these places are just going to keep hiring and firing after a month. um and I'll get maybe like a couple of views every here and there, but it's not going to be anything to actually make something off of. And I'll get accused of being lazy because that's all people know how to accuse me of, even though I'm doing all this the other work on the side. But since I don't get paid for it, it doesn't matter. And I was just thinking to myself, isn't it sad that like because I'm not even going to talk about like the American dream, but just like we all have an idea of the way we want things to go, and we always accept the fact that there's some stuff we're not going to have, or there are just things that we wanted that are out of our reach in a lot of cases. So, like for example, again, I accepted the fact that I was never going to make it on this stupid website. I accepted the fact that most chicks are the same, and um, there's no way to get one of them to actually like date you and have some long term. Like I just accepted never going to have children, never going to have anything resembling anything close to what I would have wanted out of a romantic relation. Like I just accepted that that's dead. But even something as simple as like, hey, having your own place, having a position that actually keeps you on and pays you, for an 8-hour shift every weekday. You're just even something like something as minimal and as trivial and as minor as that is now made borderline impossible because of a garbage economy and a bunch of employers that are looking for any cheap trick to get out of actually paying people what they're worth. Do you realize that these places will hire 3 people for the equivalent of one person's shift? So they'll hire one person, give them 3 hours that day. Then another one will get 2 hours. Another one will get 3 hours. So in that instance, they hire 3 people part time to pay them what they would pay one person for full time work, and that's how they get out of actually like having to keep someone on that long. And it's like no one thinks that's screwed up. No one thinks it's crazy that you can go on your application and say, I want to work 40 hours, and they give you 13 or 11 or 5 or 6. And then when you quit this place because they're not paying you enough to be able to actually survive, you get called lazy. The person who wants to work more is called lazy. So I said, you can't make this up. Like, people just create these fantasies and like in their heads they think it makes sense. And they don't care how factually wrong they are. They don't care how little research they've done. I mean, in like it's just the thing they do. They just make up anything in their mind for why something doesn't go the way that you want it to. Because it's much easier to just point the finger at you and make you the reason why stuff isn't turning out the way you want, than actually consider circumstances that are out of your control. They never will admit to any of that. It's just this impossible thing for them to ever consider. And like I said, why can't we just have a normal, reasonable, robust discussion on like, hey, I wanted this. I didn't get this. Here's what I tried to do to get this. You're never going to see that. You're just going to see a bunch of fingers being pointed because it's always your fault. And I'm expected to be excited for the rest of this stuff. I'm expected to like to go somewhere and not be angry, not look at this person with resentment for what they did or didn't do in the time that they had to do it. Always making a different excuse every year for why they couldn't do certain things. Seriously, I don't think I'm gonna make it out of this. I think we're gonna keep working at these like getting interviews, and maybe we'll get hired by one more place before the year is over and then somewhere else next year. But as far as like believing that if I just keep looking, I'll get some stable situation where, a place will accept you and like actually try to, give you some type of training or learn how to do it. No, it's over. There is no light at the end of this tunnel. And I accept it for some people that they just have these crappy fates that they can't escape from. And there are some individuals who are so lazy and so lacking in nuance or any type of view that could be considered complex that they will take that person, and because they want to believe that everyone gets a happy ending if they work hard enough, they'll just accuse you of being lazy. Oh, this guy went out and spoke to 90 something chicks and didn't get a date. Oh yeah, he made certain stupid mistakes. Yeah, it's never the woman's fault ever under any circumstance. All perfect, darling angels that drop from the sky, and we should all bend over and lick their triangles because they're all so amazing, and we can't even dare to come anywhere close to them. They're all gods among men. Oh, this guy applied for these different jobs every year and didn't hear anything back. Oh yeah, he doesn't want to work. Yeah, he just applies for fun. He just goes to interviews and has them ask him all these questions and answering it thoroughly because he just wants to look at the manager up close. It's always the man's fault. Every time. Yeah, that guy had the nerve to like write all this weird stuff about my attire. I'm like, I'm sitting over here worried if I'm gonna be able to afford food, um, if I'm gonna be able to get a position anywhere, and you think I care about what I wear for a video that's barely seen by even 100 people more often than not? Really? You think that remotely comes anywhere close to my priorities? But that's why I said that people online always show how useless and worthless they are because there have been many people that I don't like on this website, content creators who make stuff I don't enjoy. And I said before that like there are people that hate watch, they watch people that they don't like just because they're insane. But some of them do have circumstances that happen to them, um, things that affect them. And I've never, because I don't do what these people do. I don't go to their comments and leave nasty stuff and talk about the way they look and all the rest of that weird crap. But I'm just saying that like I could never picture myself being able to hear someone is in some kind of like dire or awful circumstance and then like kick them while they're down and like rub salt in the wound. But I tell you, people online are just these um really vile um beings who are devoid of any humanity. While they expect empathy from you, right? And the benefit of the doubt when they tell you something, like, oh, believe me. They won't believe you and they won't give you the benefit of they won't believe you and they won't express any type of sympathy toward your struggle whatsoever in any capacity. So I said all this stuff ties together where if you're a guy and you have any kind of like circumstance that doesn't go the way you want, people will find a way to point fingers at you and say that it was your fault that it turned out that way. That's just one of their superpowers. They're always able to find ways to blame you and to never mention external factors. And remember, if I get upset, if I swear, I get demonetized by this site, and you can get demonetized over even lesser stuff. Like I think if you say sucks, you get demonetized. I said that earlier already, so whatever. Um, but like I said, this website always seems to find like a subtle way to screw you. Like you're gonna go on a video that's barely getting any views and be like, well, we're gonna make it even harder for you to get any exposure because we know that YouTube does not promote videos that get demonetized because it doesn't see those as profitable. And it's like you do this stream and you get a couple of people to watch. And sometimes you do this stream for an hour, 2 hours, whatever. And then you leave, you exit your room, and then you go out and back into the real world where you're getting accused of being lazy and oh my God, you don't do anything. And It really does drive me crazy. Like, how many times do I have to hear this lie? For how long? Which year is it gonna change? I'm waiting to hear an answer. What year does it get better? Because I haven't seen it. Make sure I click that. Person might come in here. Seriously, what where is the happy ending? I'm waiting for it. Because I'm not joking when I say that things just go from bad to worse. There is no improvement. It's a never-ending stream of insanity, and you just any regular person would get sick of it. But I said before that I don't really get treated like a human being on here. So for example, I had this one broad who said, "Oh, maybe the reason you can't get anyone is because you call women the B word." Now, of course, we know for a fact that that doesn't stop someone from getting a partner. Because if that was the case, none of these rappers that would have any dates. But anyways, I was just thinking to myself, it's like you expect me to speak positively of a group that has members who have said one thing and done the other, who have begged me for money, who I'm constantly told are not all the same but do the same thing, who have wasted my time for weeks or months speaking. You expect me to have a positive, good thing to say about them view of these people. You really expect me to not be angry, to just have this extremely calm disposition, and as they deny me my dreams and the things I would like to see happen, I'm supposed to act pleasant and or nice with when speaking about them or speaking to them. That's really something that I'm supposed to that is the way in which I'm expected to act towards these people, to have this pleasant or happy disposition, and I just can't, because this isn't good. What they did as a collective for what was it, 7 years, and if you wanna count since then, it's like 11, was terrible. We had a gold digger and a bunch of liars and a bunch of attention seekers. And I'm sorry to tell you, but that is the full extent of my romantic relationships with women. A gold digger, a bunch of liars, and a bunch of attention seekers. That's them. They fall into 3 categories. You dated a gold digger years ago, you broke it off because who wants to get baked for money every 5 seconds? Um, and then you had a bunch of these liars who say, like the one we're talking about in this video, you agree to marry somebody and then you renege a couple of days later, or the one that asked me on a date and then reneged or started like adding all these stipulations and the rest of that trash and wanted to try to friend zone. That's why I said they're a bunch of it's either a gold digger, liars, or a bunch of attention seekers. That's them. You can get mad if you want, but that's the truth. I just tell the truth. I have no agenda against them. And I've actively admitted there are certain ones, especially ones from before, like the last 20 years in social media, that actually met a man that they liked and cared about and tried to build something with them. And you just don't have that in modern chicks. You really don't. In a lot of cases, as far as being a romantic partner, they're devoid of almost any redeeming qualities. To where, like, when someone says you will eventually find someone, I look at it like it's a joke. It's like, no, that person would have materialized a long time ago, because we know for a fact that most women do not approach men, even the ones they find attractive. So if you even meet any of them and they reciprocate interest in you, you're probably going to have to be the one that starts it, because you can't count on them to start anything besides finding new ways to lie. Yeah, you can get mad all you want. That is the relationship I have had with them. That is the impact they have had on me, and it has not been good. I said before, it's like it's twofold. The chicks themselves are a bunch of gold digger, liars, and attention seekers, and then they're used by these guys as a tool to attack me personally with. And it's like you expect me to speak highly of a group like that, to think that one of them is going to appear out of the blue after being dormant year after year after year after year after year, and suddenly she'll magically be so great and make me forget about all this awful crap I experienced. No, it's never going to happen. All this stuff about the one and all this other like weird fate-based stuff, and I said very explicitly, even if there was a supposed one for me, that person still wouldn't exist because she has like probably 10, 20, or 30 guys talking to her before I even meet her. So that's why I said that, like, who, if you don't believe in these fairy tales and these fantasies, because every time you're led to think of that stuff in this abstract way of, oh, you got this garbage circumstance for a while, but it's okay because something better came along later. It always turns out to be the same old trash. That's what that first job was for me. Like that, excuse me, not first job. That job from last year was for me. It was like months and months of hearing nothing back, not being hired by anybody. Oh my God, it looks like things are finally going to get better. And it was just another cruel joke. And then I was so cautious about the this last one that I worked as hard as I've worked at any of these. I was learning all the stuff within days of being first introduced to it, and it still wasn't enough. Well, I'll tell you what it was. It was just another cruel joke. Seriously, I'm tired of getting my hopes up for stuff that goes nowhere. And they always want to talk about all these pills. Oh, you took this pill, you took that. I don't even discuss any of that stuff because I'm not part of any of these groups. But when I become disenfranchised with something or have a negative view of it, it's because I've had no reason to have a positive one. If I watch a TV show, 100 episodes of it, and I wouldn't even watch a show that long if most of them were bad, but let's say I watch 100 episodes of a show and 98 of them are not good. Yeah, I'm probably going to think the next one's not going to be good either. You only had 2 successes out of 100 tries. So, people can get mad. This is just reality. Chicks or women, whatever you want to call them, as a group are just they've never had any positive impact on me. Certainly not with regard to actually trying to date one of them. It's never gone and been anything more than just a headache or some frustration. That's why now when I see them, I don't even think about like being with any of them or, oh, does this one look not. I just try to ignore them. Like what's the point? Nothing good has or ever will come out of me speaking to them. It's as simple as that. They're just a tool that people use to attack me with. That is the totality of their role. And like I said, if the situation were reversed and it was like I said before, I've seen this happen so many times. I've seen men who, when some woman is down on her luck financially, they pay for her. They let her move in with them. They take care of her. I mean, I told you about the dingbat with the baby. Here's a woman who has a guy that she treats, in my opinion, pretty poorly, and he pays for her, place for her to keep all her stuff, storage unit. And it's like he does this month after month, um, and he's rewarded by being cursed out and cheated on, and even to this day, still not appreciated. And I said, like, let's make something very clear. If I had a triangle and a set of melons, no matter how saggy, of course, this would happen when I'm making one of my points. Anyways, as I was saying, I want to make something very clear. If I was a woman and I had a set of, those good old saggy melons, I would have multiple men, and I'm just this wouldn't even have to do with like me particularly being so hot and beautiful. It's just this is what guys do for chicks, period. I would have at least one or two men who would be willing to like take me in and pay for my stuff because that I've seen men do this to get with chicks. They will throw themselves. They perform what TV tropes calls heroic sacrifices, except with their wallets in this instance of like trying to save the day from some villain. Um, just if they think it will get them like a better chance of being with some woman. I've seen them do it. And I know that if I had a triangle between my legs, they would do the exact same thing for me. And that's the elephant in the room. There are so many like it's so funny how everybody always talks about the patriarchy and you know, oh, the men control da, 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 da. It's like, but you look at public opinion, you look at who can manipulate people, and it's women. They're able to do it to men all the time. They're able to get anything they want out of us as a collective because we have no standards. That's why there are no groups of chicks talking about how hard it is to get a man to go on a date because we'll date anything. You could have a Martian come down and she could be bald headed, and as long as she has a chest and a triangle, we will one of us will date her. She could look like the alien from Destroy All Humans. That's how that's how warped our expectations and our standards are compared to chicks. Chicks sit up there and they'll find 900 reasons to reject a man, but men can never have any reason to turn down any woman. No, like it's really nuts. Just the paradox that turned into. All I'm saying is a lot of this stuff would be much simpler. And I was just thinking of it this week, in particular because of like how crappy things are about to get and how bad they've started turning into already. Um, But I'm very sincere when I say that, like, at some point, I'm probably like, I'll still put stuff up, like different videos, whatever, here and there, but I really don't see me like succeeding with this stuff anymore. Because like a lot of reality has set in this week about how like it really is this endless cycle of applying to these different places and hearing nothing back. And then even if you get hired by someone, they're just going to throw you away like a piece of trash. Um, and I can't convince myself any longer that anything good is going to come out of however this concludes. I think at best we're probably going to be stuck in some situation where you get hired somewhere part-time to another place part-time, because for some damn reason these places just will not hire anybody for a full shift anymore. And even the one that did, like, you're still gonna have to breathe down your neck wondering if they're gonna get rid of you after a couple of weeks. Like I said, the experiences I have had, I will never get over because they have shaped a lot of my thinking. And um if I become disenfranchised with something, it's because it's just too much awful stuff is happening. It seems so rare that you ever get any good news. I'm not joking when I say that. It seems like every year it just gets worse and worse. Like you drop out of college because you can't afford it anymore. Certainly not by yourself, without committing financial suicide. And then for like a whole year, you're just applying to different places, hearing nothing back. You go to a few interviews, you still hear nothing back. And then the year after that, this big virus comes out, and now everyone is like staying at home, and um, you're like still applying because you want to get away from this horrible circumstance, and you hear nothing back. Then in May of the following year, you finally hear something back and get hired by someone, but it turns out to be a ruse because this person is threatening to get rid of you after your first day. Then they get rid of you after like 9 days of work in there and barely using you to begin with. Then for like the rest of the year, you're applying places, still hear nothing back. Then you get hired somewhere else this year, but they do the same thing basically. They give you more hours, but it's like the same saga of like getting hired and being gotten rid of in less than a month. And it's like, I just don't see this improving. I really don't. I think what will keep happening is you're going to keep applying to these different places and hearing nothing back, or getting hired somewewhere and then gotten rid of after a short amount of time, no matter how hard you work. And you'll have these random guys on the internet. It's your fault, your fault, your fault, your fault, your fault, your fault, your fault. Because it's all they never cannot blame you for why some doesn't go the way you want. It's every instance, it's your fault. And I'm just tired of it. Like I said, I deal with too much garbage in real life to put up with the stuff on here that much anymore. Yeah, lovely little keyboard. Mm. I just I'm just tired of these people. Again, this just isn't anything that's worth engaging with. Like I really have no problem with just throwing any of the weird stuff that gets written on here away, because I told you, I don't care. I'm boycotting the entire site. If I've never seen you before and you write something weird, you're out. And I really did. I tried to be a little bit flexible, but we should just start banning people automatically if we've never seen them before. Because every time there's a new person, they're writing something weird. In every instance. So yeah, there's no point in me trying to listen to somebody or talk to them or read what they have to say because it's garbage. And if you don't like it, don't watch. Too much awful stuff is happening in real life for me to care about somebody analyzing my appearance and trying to like figure out what I used to watch. Like it's weird and it's irrelevant. It doesn't matter. I'm over here getting screwed every single day in real life, but I'm supposed to also like willfully listen to people trying to screw me on the internet. Man, forget that. So thanks Akatsuki Merchant for showing up. You're the only one who I read a little bit of the stuff of because I'm tired of this. The only person who tries to make things better ever is the reason it stays the same according to these people. Just blamed for everything. And I get no help in almost any circumstance. All the different jobs I've had sought out entirely by me. All these people just sit around complain, you're lazy, you're lazy, you're lazy, you're lazy. Not one has ever given me a referral recommendation, none of that. And you're gonna sit here and try to make me feel bad for being the only person trying to fix this. So yeah, I only feel bad because of like things worsening. But as far as like, oh my God, I should have done no, because we tried as hard as we could to fix this stuff. This person had a disease that they wouldn't tell us about. And now I'm gonna pay the price for it. So I'm just not in the mood for people on here that much all today or really for any time soon.